What is going on, guys? Horizon here, and on today's episode of RLCS Game Plan, we're taking a deep dive into the grand finals of the RLCS Spring Major, played between Team Falcons and Moist Esports. In today's video, we are going to be taking a look at just what went wrong for Team Falcons here against Moist Esports. And to do that, we're going to be taking a look at Game 7 of the first series played between these two teams from the perspective of oKhaliD. This is simply due to the fact that he is consistently the third man for Team Falcons, so this should give us a pretty good idea of what's going on across the entire field. So without any further ado, let's roll this on forward and see just what went wrong here for Team Falcons, because a lot was going right, but things kind of fell apart pretty quickly here, so off we go, see how things go along. And if I remember correctly, things do not start well. Indeed they do not. Okay. So, number one. Falcons, the big thing about Falcons is that they are just so fast to read everything. So it is just in their playstyle for oKhaliD to jump as fast as humanly possible for this ball. So I have no problem with him jumping here. Just a simple mystery, no worries. But, once oKhaliD misread this and landed on the side wall, I feel like he needed to do more to prevent a dangerous play from coming through for Moist. Because what he attempts to do is he attempts to get a back pass. However, the problem with this idea is that TRK is sat back here with only 25 boost and not a whole lot to do if the ball does fall to him. So rather than oKhaliD chipping this ball back to TRK, which is what he tries to do, I would rather see him just literally park in front of the Moist Esports player who's coming up the sidewall. Pretty sure it's Vatira. If oKhaliD just simply parks in front of him and says, if you want to get to this ball, you gotta go through me, it's gonna make it a lot harder for Vatira to maintain control of the play, and make it a lot harder for Moist to move forward on offense. It's not the best start for Team Falcons, but we move on. Plenty of time left in the fact that it's just 12 seconds in. Fading out the jump from Rise, A-OK there. And this is where we're going to see the really deep positioning from Falcons. So, because oKhaliD plays such a far back third man, he is going to let Ahmad and TRK just go up and do whatever they want, and he's literally just going to drive along his back line. Not even really paying too close attention to what's going on, because he can just chill on the defensive half, and TRK will just ball the other team. So, why does oKhaliD need to be pushed up towards the offense when his two players can outdo the other three just as easily? Onwards we go. See how we get along. One of the things that I think is going to become very apparent in this match is just how willing Falcons is to give Moist space. Because you see, oKhaliD picks up this boost and the ball is sitting right there. Now, in order to pressure this ball, you would think that oKhaliD should just make a quick turn on this wall and go out and challenge Rise. Because currently, oKhaliD can see no other members of his team, which means that they're both to the left side of the screen right now. So they're in a pretty good defensive position. Even if one's rotating back from the midfield, they're still in a pretty good spot to deal with whatever Rise is throwing at them. What we don't want to allow is we don't want to allow Rise free reign to just do whatever he wants with this ball. So ideally, we'd want our front man, which in this case is oKhaliD, to immediately turn on this and pressure Rise into doing something, just so Rise doesn't have all day. However, we see that both Ahmad and oKhaliD end up on this back wall. Very possible that Ahmad thought that oKhaliD was going to turn to get this challenge, and so when oKhaliD didn't, they just ended up bunched up on the backboard together. So ideally, we really would have liked to see oKhaliD go ahead and take this challenge, and not give these free touches over to Moist. And I think we'll see that pretty consistently throughout this game. And then, like, this is kind of what I wanted to see initially on the first challenge. But now in this case, we don't really want to just allow Vatira a free pass to go right around us. We want to make life a little bit harder. So this would be the occasion where it might be smart to just drive up the back wall and allow Vatira to come at us and then get a more favorable challenge, rather than jumping when Vatira very clearly has us beat and is easily going to get the ball around us. oKhaliD jumping here doesn't really do a whole lot except leave his third man back completely alone. By oKhaliD jumping here, he is essentially taking himself out of the game. And we don't really want to do that, especially against a team as mechanical as Moist. we want to give ourselves as good a chance as possible to stop their offensive plays. And the way to do that is not to jump on what is essentially a prayer that we might get a touch on this ball, but rather keeping ourselves in a position where our options are as open as possible to allow us to get the best play for our team. This KhaliD takes himself out of the play. Now luckily there's no Moist player there to follow this up, but if Vatira had somehow gotten a double tap off of this, that's a goal. If Joyo had demoed the third man back from Falcons, this is probably a goal. So KhaliD needs to be a bit more careful here about when he takes himself out of the play, and when he goes for these kind of Hail Mary challenges. Again, really deep rotation from KhaliD. And then again, just an awkward amount of space given over to Moist. And in this situation, it's even more obvious that I feel like KhaliD should be challenging. Because if we look at the situation, let's just go back here. So we see Rise, he picks up the full boost. He uses a decent chunk of it as he positions back into net. And then he goes up for this aerial. So we can assume that Rise doesn't have a ton of boost left. He's got some, but he doesn't have a ton. And if we were to check, he has 32. So not a whole lot that he's really going to do with 32. So if we're KhaliD in this situation, we're watching Rise, he has stopped boosting. So Rise hasn't used boost for a while. So now we might assume that he's trying to bait us into thinking that he has 0 boost to bait us forward. The problem is that even though that's what he's trying to do, I would still like to see KhaliD get a little bit closer. KhaliD doesn't know the exact boost situation Rise is in. Based on how we saw Rise floating with 0, it might be worth chancing the fact that he has very low boost and is going for this challenge. Because even if Rise gets the ball past KhaliD here, if KhaliD can just force Rise off the ball, it makes life a whole lot easier for the guy behind KhaliD to take over the play. But by just kind of waiting here and waiting to see what Rise does, it allows Vatira to come in and maintain control of this ball for Moist Esports. It seems like Falcons is just really scared of forcing the first man of Moist off the ball. And when you play this style of passive defense, you very often end up getting pinned in on your own half, because you're not willing to play this 50-50 game with the first man of Moist's attack. You kind of just let them come at you and don't really do anything to force them to make a play. Rotating back we come. Again, this is another time where I'd like to see a bit more of an aggressive challenge. You have someone back behind you, and the only person from Moist who can pressure this ball is Rise. So I would like to see KhaliD go for a bit more of an aggressive challenge. Whether he gets the ball or the man, it really doesn't matter as long as he gets a piece of something. But it's not smart to just let Rise come at you like this, because you're just giving him too much control over the play. A little bit more of an aggressive challenge there would have been nice. Again, awkward from everyone on Falcons. Here, TRK just backs down from a potential challenge and says, nah, I'm good, let me rotate back. Instead of turning in towards the play, he turns away from it. It is fair in TRK's case, he probably thinks Joyo is going to go up the wall, and then Joyo doesn't. So that's probably why, but there's a lot of space afforded over to Moist Esports in all these situations, and it's just allowing Moist to maintain control of this ball and maintain pressure in the Team Falcons half. Ball coming over. Totally fine, just chilling. Oh, excuse me. That is the smart way to wait for a challenge. This is when you don't go up aggressively. This is when you wait for the 50-50, because then you're able to take the front man of Moist out of the play by taking the 50. Because Moist doesn't have control of the ball in this situation, it makes a lot more sense just to let the 50-50 happen. When Moist has control of the ball is when you want to be a bit more aggressive in your challenges to get them off of it. But this is going to be a pretty okay 50 for Team Falcons to go ahead and get it out. I would like to see a bit more usage of the small pads on the field. Like, yes, he has time to go all the way back, and this is going to result in a goal because Rise own goals it. But there's a ton of boost available in this midfield, and it would allow Falcons to possibly maintain a bit more pressure if we don't go all the way back here. But it works out. Things looking good. Can they hold it for the next 2:59? Good bump off the kickoff just to make sure there's no risk of a kickoff goal. Ball was over the top of KhaliD, so he makes sure to take the player from Moist off of it. And again, a bit of some awkward defending going on from Falcons. They do get out, but a little bit awkward again from TRK. It seems that Falcons, when they go up for challenges on air dribbles, would prefer to jump from the ground rather than the walls. But I feel like TRK could preserve a lot of his boost if he drives up the wall here to challenge Vatira, rather than jumping from the ground. And because he jumps from the ground, he has to use a lot more boost, and he's also not able to wait to commit for what he wants to do. He is showing his hand to Vatira before TRK even knows what Vatira might even be thinking about doing. If he drives up the wall, he has a lot more options still available to him, rather than committing himself so early to jumping up in the air like that. Just seems like a lot of panicky defense from Falcons, in all honesty. Like, a lot of jumpiness, a lot of, I don't want this ball, just get it away. A lot of, the ball's coming towards us, let's just jump and hope for the best. There seems to be a lack of Falcons' desire to control the play. They seem to be content allowing Moist to have all the control and just reacting to what Moist is doing. But it's really pinning Falcons back deep in their half and not allowing them to have any control of the ball, any say in what's happening in the play. And it's really limiting Falcons' ability to break out on defense, as well as their ability to generate threatening offensive drives. But I'd like to see Falcons utilize the walls a bit more. More jumpy defense, exactly what I was saying. Lucky to get out of this, but we do have a bit of a triple commit. And again, Ahmad just bangs this ball away. Like, I know you have Rise behind you, but TRK is picking up a full boost. Just roll this ball up the wall. TRK has got full. You don't need to bang it away. Just roll it up the wall, keep it close to you guys, maintain possession. I'd like to see Falcons start to utilize a lot of what made BDS so good this split, which was keeping the ball close to themselves and close to their teammates. Falcons, at this stage of the game, just seem super content to chuck the ball as far away from them as possible, even when that's not the ideal play, as it's not in this case. Because in this case, it'd be great if Ahmad can just get this ball over to TRK, TRK can take control, Falcons burn some time off the clock, and generate a pretty threatening offensive chance, instead of just handing the ball back to Moist, and continuing to be pinned down in your own half. Ahmad just bangs his ball away, and Joyo goes, cool, thanks, I'll take that. Good cut here from TRK to make Vatira a little awkward. oKhaliD's not going to jump in on this because he has TRK rotating through. Again, more jumpy defense from Falcons. Like, I don't exactly know the point of Ahmad being this close, because even if Rise takes this on a dribble, oKhaliD's right here to deal with it. With Ahmad being this close, he can't really react to whatever touch Rise gets, because if Rise does pop it, we'd like to see Ahmad being a bit further back to be able to actually get up to the ball, but because he's this close, he's unable to reach up to it. It's more, seems like a bit of panicky defense, and some more panicky defense as well. So this is pretty much all on this touch from oKhaliD, and it's again just not utilizing the time he has, because Joyo's not going to maintain control of this ball off this touch. It's going to hit off the side of his car, and it's going to bounce right towards oKhaliD. Yes, oKhaliD has low boost, but oKhaliD is not under any pressure right now, except from Joyo. By the time Vatira comes in to challenge oKhaliD, the ball will have already landed. So at worst case scenario, this is a 50-50. At best case, oKhaliD gets the ball around Vatira, and now Ahmad and TRK can move forward for a threatening offensive chance. But instead, oKhaliD sees this ball coming at him and goes, okay, need to challenge, get this ball away as fast as possible. But realistically, no one on his team is in a position to defend a ball that goes out into the midfield here. And with where Joyo's positioned, and with how little momentum oKhaliD has coming at this ball, it's not going to be a super hard 50-50. It's just going to kind of be a trickling challenge that's going to roll out in one direction. And because of where Joyo's positioned, the only way this ball is really going is out into the midfield towards more Moist players. So I'd really like to see oKhaliD take his time here, take the ball down. Even if he just waits for Joyo to come to the ground and 50s it on the ground, I just don't want to see oKhaliD rushing this touch, because it's very similar to the Ahmad touch, but worse, because at least the Ahmad touch got a fair bit of distance on it. This challenge isn't going to result in any kind of distance, it's just going to trickle out to Moist players. And it's not going to be very good, because Vatira makes a very smart pass over to Rise, and Ahmad gets beat as well. You can't really blame TRK in this situation, because he's got to play the shot, because you'd expect a shot here from Vatira. And Rise, beautiful placement right into the upper right, or upper left, depending on how you're looking at it. So, not much that Ahmad can do as he was scrambling back either. All that comes down to the challenge that oKhaliD gets in the corner. Going on the backboard, this is fine. And, this is just awkward. Because oKhaliD's kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. Because on one hand, you don't want to let Rise just come through with this free shot. You want to try to get out to cut down as many angles as possible. But on the other hand, you are last back. So if you are risking this, you better make sure that you're going to win this. So oKhaliD does have a really tough decision to make, and he has to make it extremely quickly between whether to stay back and whether to challenge this. I believe oKhaliD should have stayed back in net, and the reason being is all about the positioning of TRK. Because as Vatira comes forward for this ball, we're going to see TRK, he lands facing the corner, but he's going to turn back upfield towards this ball, rather than turning back towards net. If TRK turns back towards net, oKhaliD challenges 100% of the time. No doubt, because whatever touch Rise gets, oKhaliD will be able to at least force Rise off the ball, and it will allow TRK to come in for the next challenge. However, when TRK turns like this, oKhaliD now has to make this split-second decision, do I stay or do I go? And with TRK being kind of in no man's land, I believe Falcons' best chance in this play is to have oKhaliD stay in net. And realistically, the main reason behind that is the lack of momentum in Rise. Yes, the ball has momentum, but Rise doesn't have a whole lot of momentum. So it's not like he's going to be able to add a crazy pace onto this ball. So oKhaliD should have a chance, based on the direction that Rise is coming from and the angle it looks like he's going to shoot it, to get up and make a save based on the shot that Rise puts on. Falcons go down 3-2. Do they have anything left in the tank? Is the big question. More panicky clears. Again, you have 100 boost. Why are you just chucking the ball away? You could have just literally let this bounce into your back corner. Taking control of it. Had an offensive play going because Ahmad got the mid boost. You'd be set up on offense. But instead, it's just more Moist pressure. Good challenge from TRK. Ahmad coming in. Good shot attempt from oKhaliD. I like the idea of applying pressure. It's not an overly risky challenge to go for, so might as well throw your hat in. Maybe there's a mistake from Moist that you're able to capitalize on. Good attempt in the infield pass from TRK as well. Ahmad is not able to get the touch on net that he would have liked. This is the kind of thing that I would have liked to see more of throughout this game, and throughout the series as a whole, is positioning for passes upfield. This makes it really easy for Falcons to break out of defense. Quick pass from oKhaliD right up to Ahmad. Break out. Down the field they go. Doesn't really result in anything, but does give them at least a chance. Some more passive defense, though. You'd like to see oKhaliD being faced towards the play here so he can do a bit to it. But instead he's faced backwards, which means Moist goes cool. Thanks for the space. We'll take that and just slow down the play. And then you got TRK jumping at a ball coming forward, because oKhaliD's still backwards. So oKhaliD is retreating back, but now TRK wants to generate a challenge, so Moist doesn't have the whole field to work with. But the ball is still super close to Vatira because of the lack of a challenge in the midfield. So Vatira is able to just easily steer the ball around TRK. Luckily, oKhaliD does recover to the backboard and takes over control. Again, this is what we would have liked to see. Look at the control from oKhaliD here. All three members of Team Falcons are 1v1 players. They're all very good at 1v1. So I find it a bit odd that they just completely moved away from all the 1v1 mechanics. Like, there was very few dribbles, very few ground plays, very few any of that. Just a lot of aerial, I'm going to take the ball into the air, I'm going to hit the ball away from me as hard as possible. Lack of possession play, which from a team that is full of 1v1 players is a bit surprising. And clock's going to tick down here. One more ball coming through. One more bounce. TRK off the side wall. And again, just this is the pinnacle of what this entire game was. The entire game just felt like Falcons had alarm bells going off in their head. Like, they were absolutely panicking. And I'm not sure why. These guys are all masters of 1v1. So you'd expect Falcons to come out, even in the 3v3 sense, and put a lot of emphasis on maintaining control of the play and going for those 1v1 outplays. We saw just towards the end of this game, oKhaliD dribbling down the side of the field, 50-50ing the ball through everyone. Where was that the rest of the series? I think Falcons came into this series and did a lot of what Moist did back in the Winter Major against G2, which was we get the ball, we air dribble. Not a whole lot else. And that can work for a while because when you're extremely mechanical, there's a lot of things you can mix into air dribbles. However, eventually, the other team will stop positioning themselves to defend anything but an air dribble, and as soon as they see the ball falling to you, they'll just expect you to pop it up into the air, and they'll go up and challenge you immediately, so you don't have time to pull out any of those flashy or fancy mechanics. You want to mix it up. You don't want to always be taking the ball into the air. You want to be utilizing your teammates for passes, and especially in the case of Team Falcons, you want to bring the ball down and go for dribbles, go for 50-50s. Play the game that you know how to play. Other than maybe Dignitas, Falcons know how to play the grounded 50-50 game better than anyone. When it comes to the World Championships, the two things that I think the Falcons need to do to be successful is number one, diversify the offense. You can't just air dribble the ball every time you get it. You need to utilize your teammates. You need to utilize ground plays. And number two is just maintaining composure on defense. This kind of goes hand in hand with being willing to go for ground plays, because it seemed that whenever they didn't have enough boost to go for an air dribble, they would just slap the ball away as hard as possible, get it as far away from us as possible. We don't want it right now. Whereas they could have just taken the ball down on a dribble, invited the aggressiveness from Moist, taken the 50-50s, controlled the play, and worked their way out of defense methodically. We'll definitely look forward to seeing Falcons compete again in Dallas.